Kaya? Kaya. Hey guys, Isabel here. Welcome back to Reeled In. So I think I've waited long enough for most people to have seen this movie. It's the newest Pixar movie, Luca. And I just kind of wanted to talk about it, do sort of like a movie review, and not necessarily analyze what happened, but just sort of like discuss some points that I saw. So today's discussion is going to have 3 parts to it, and it's going to be character development, storyline, and just how Italian is Luca? How Italian do you think it was? So I'm going to start off part 1 by talking about the storyline. So in the movie, the character Luca starts off as I guess you would call him a small town farm boy who does the same boring daily task but longs to see the world. And we already get hints of this, because listen to how he says this when rounding up his fish.
For you. He's either dead or he's out there somewhere, seeing the world. But he's probably dead.
So right from the beginning, we can tell that Luca longs to see the world, but his duty and loyalty to his family stops him. We can also tell that Luca is bored with his life, and we can also see that although he's been told nasty things about the world above, he's innately curious about them, the land monsters, as we see when he picks up the human items and when he daydreams about taking a peek up above. Like in his daydream is a pretty good metaphor because he's literally trapped in a bubble that he can't get out of. But eventually he meets Alberto and is brought up to the surface, where he forms a fast friendship with him. And I instantly knew that Alberto's dad was not in the picture, as it would be pretty unlike Pixar to not include something sad like that. Now, throughout the movie, we see a few of Luca's daydreams, and they're pretty fantastical and bright, and I think that's supposed to depict Luca's immense imagination and his creativity, which I think is what helps him and even drives him to want to learn more about the world. Since he's lived his whole life underwater tending to his fish all day, his daydreams are basically what has kept him going. And what I think is interesting that the sea monster's fear of land monsters actually propels the story forward by Luca's mom attempting to send Luca away to the deep to stop him from going back on land, thus causing Alberto and Luca to run away to the human town, which rolls into them meeting Julia, Colette with the Vespa, and them wanting to enter in the race and cause all the shenanigans basically that happens in the movies. Also in this storyline, something I found interesting is that in the beginning of the story, Alberto and Luca mention freedom a lot, and I think it's nice that they went from their idea of freedom being kind of physically free with like no parents or anyone else around them, just the two of them without any barriers to the world, but slowly we see that the freedom they were looking for is actually freedom of choice. Because Alberto technically didn't choose to live by himself up in the human world on that little island. His dad left him, and Luca was stuck being a shepherd kind of to his fish under the water. But by the end of the movie, Luca gets to choose to maintain a friendship with the town people as well as to go to school like he wanted. And Alberto got to choose to stay with someone who quickly turned into a father figure. And this time, instead of someone leaving him, he got to choose to sort of let Luca leave him behind in a way. Which will also go back into my character development because, that's a pretty big development for Alberto. But now Luca and Alberto make it to the human town, and we're introduced to the character Julia. And I was trying to think about her character development to the storyline because she kind of does stay relatively the same throughout the movie, but I think her character serves to inform both Luca and Alberto as to how the human world works and sort of how to better fit into the human world. She's their source of knowledge, as she obviously is human herself and can explain the unknowns to them. Julia's character also serves to drive Luca's desire of intellect and knowledge further, and without meaning to, she also serves as a wedge between Luca and Alberto to basically reach the big emotional climax between the two of them. Her character feeds into Alberto's insecurities about someone else leaving him. We first see this when Luca is first trying to ride the bike. Alberto keeps telling him ways to attempt to ride it, and they keep failing. But Julia tells him to look up, and then he can ride the bike.
All right, try jumping onto it. No, you gotta show it you're the boss.
Eyes up! Huh? Looking down is what's making you fall.
Later, when Luca's reminiscing on this to Alberto, Luca is very excited, but Alberto quickly dismisses this and continues on another topic.
Did you see me on the bike? Julia said, look up, and then all of a sudden I was riding it.
Yeah. Our Vespa's gonna be even better than a bike, though.
Also, I just want to say the cat is amazing in this movie, and I like that throughout the movie they had to sort of earn his trust by feeding him various fishes. I also liked that Julia's dad started to see Alberto as a son figure. We see Alberto helping him a lot more than Luca does. Although I can't help but wonder if this sort of undermines Julia and her father's relationship. In old Italy, if you have a son, it's pretty much everything, because everyone worships the sun in old Italy, as well as even some old Italian families. I've got a lot of stories about cousins and second cousins that can attest to this. And I don't think that's what Pixar was going for, but that's just something I kind of noticed. It could also be, though, that since Julia goes back home to her mother's house for like 9 months out of the year, that maybe the dad likes the thought of having someone more permanent around who can help him. Like, it's probably a nice thought for the dad. And he can probably also sense that maybe because Alberto does seem a little bit older than Luca, and Luca actually also already has a family, I think maybe he could also sense that Alberto is the one who kind of needed the extra attention. I think the dad also likes the idea of being able to teach things to Alberto. Like we see him teach him how to eat pasta. And obviously he probably taught him how to do a lot of fishing techniques and stuff with the nets. So I feel like there isn't much he can really teach Julia, as she's learning everything from another school somewhere else. Speaking of Alberto, I really see his insecurities come out when Luca is talking about visiting Julia at her school, and even trying to go to the school himself.
What if we visit her there?
Why would you want to do that?
It kind of sounds interesting.
The whole reason we're getting a Vespa is to live on our own. Luca, sea monsters can't go to school.
At first glance, I thought he was just kind of jealous of Julia, which I'm sure there is a little bit of that as well. But I think he was more frightened that this person who he has come to view as a younger brother, kind of, and someone who he knows looks up to him, would leave him for someone or something else. Which I think reminds him a lot of his dad, and how his dad basically left him, maybe for someone or something else. Then the big emotional climax happens where Luca basically sells out Alberto and keeps himself safe.
See? I knew this would happen.
Monster!
Because he is afraid about what everyone will think about him. We also see that his interests have changed. Instead of traveling the world with Alberto, what he really wants to do is go to school with Julia. And Alberto is also afraid of Luca leaving him and attempts to reveal Luca's secret in order to prove a point, as well as sort of to force Luca to stay with him. Obviously that doesn't work, and they have like a really big fight. And then it's officially revealed in the movie that Alberto's father left him a long time ago. Luca discovers the tally marks on the wall that the Vespa poster actually had covered up. And I realized that Alberto put the Vespa poster up in that specific spot on purpose for a reason. He put the poster on the tally marks because he didn't want to see them anymore and actually hide the fact that that whole event in his life actually happened to him. Then the race officially starts off, and I think it's funny that Chicho starts getting attacked by these little fish, which is either because Ercolette drenched him in olive oil in an attempt to make him swim faster, or I think maybe Alberto may have had done something with those fish there to stop Chicho. And I like how during the actual climax of the movie, Alberto and Luca prove that they have a very strong bond together by essentially making up. And also, Alberto did a very Luca thing by coming with the umbrella. And Luca did a very Alberto thing by running into the rain to save Alberto and exposing himself as a sea monster. So I think it's nice to see that, you know, their brotherly bond is stronger than a simple, well, not a simple, but a big fight. And also that they learned a lot from each other. I'll talk about this more in character development. And at the end of the movie, Alberto gives up his dream of riding the Vespa around the world in order to make Luca's dream come true. He sells the Vespa so Luca can attend school with Julia. But I don't really think traveling the world on a Vespa was really Alberto's dream. I think it was more of a fantasy that he came up with when he and Luca were alone on the island together. And he created it as sort of a pull to keep Luca with him. But when Alberto found his place with Julia's dad, I think he realized that he wanted to give Luca a chance to find his own place as well for himself. Another part of me, though, wonders if this might represent how perhaps in families one child might be a bit smarter than the other, or maybe one child is more technical and then to society they are perceived as not being as smart as the other sibling. Because like Luca gets to go to school and he got to live out his dream, but then Alberto in a way was kind of left to stay behind. And I could just be reaching, like I'm pretty sure Alberto was happy to stay behind with a found father figure, but there's a little part of me that is just kind of like, I think it's just odd. But overall, I think this movie is about acceptance and understanding and knowing that even though there are people in the world who might not be the best for you, there's always going to be someone for you, whether that be friendship or something else. And I think it sort of teaches what kind of person or what kind of people you would like to surround yourself with.
Some people, they'll never accept him. But some will. And he seems to know how to find the good ones.
Sometimes it's a lot better to be the underdog than to be surrounded by all the perceived popular kids. So that's what I got from the storyline. And now to part 2 of this video. How Italian is the movie Luca? And who am I to say how Italian is something? Well, I do come from Italian heritage. My grandparents immigrated to here, America, from Italy, actually the Abruzzi region. So fun fact about me. So my mom obviously grew up with Italian parents, and I grew up with her. And I have Italian grandparents. So in the opening scene on the boat, they're playing a record, which I think sounds something like, it sounds a little bit like opera, and Italians do love their opera.
Ah, that's more like it.
The actual old world seaport town itself does seem to be pretty authentic, at least with how it visually looks. It has the typical cobblestone streets and the stucco beautifully pastel painted buildings. My mom says it reminded her of Portofino a little bit. Knowing though that this movie takes place in the Italian Riviera, especially close to Liguara, I know I pronounced that wrong and I'm sorry, which is actually close to Portofino and just outside where Julia goes to school. And in the movie, everyone is eating ice cream, which is funny because everybody does love gelato, both adults and children. And everyone does have bicycles and they always walk. They never drive, they never have cars, which is why having a Vespa is actually a really big deal in a small town, as comparatively owning a Vespa is a symbol of wealth. Vespas to the common person, like someone who lives in bigger cities like Rome, probably are not as expensive, and there you can probably see a lot of them. But having a Vespa in a small seaport town like this is actually a pretty big deal, as most of the townspeople wouldn't be able to afford it. And I'm glad that they put a cat in the movie because Italians do love their cats. And I was trying to figure out what era the movie takes place in because the music was sort of like 1950s or 60s. Not too sure about that though. Although Vespa was founded in 1946 in Florence, Italy. So it makes me wonder if the time period actually is 50s or 60s. Although I think one of the biggest irony about this town in the movie is that it's a seaport town, so they deal a lot with fish, but in this whole movie I do not see a single person actually eating fish. And also a seaport town wouldn't really eat pasta like they do in this movie. Of course there's pasta everywhere in Italy, but I think towns closer to farmlands would eat more pasta as they grow the wheat to make the pasta, because each town's culinary aspect comes from the land. So if you are in a seaport town, you're gonna eat what you get, what you catch in on the daily basis, which is a lot of fish. So, and I know that like they're doing it to kind of be funny and for the whole race thing, you know, to train, and it's a kid's movie, kind of, it's a Pixar movie, I do get that, but just letting you guys know. One thing though that my mom did say is that the people in this movie are more of a caricature of Italian people, which can actually be insulting and is a bit stereotypical. Like the Italian accents in the kids and even some of the adults come and go. The parents of Luca were more New York Italian than Italy. The Italian language can be elegant and beautiful, but this movie chose to sort of caricature it, which my mom found insulting. And I did think the character of Giulia was cute and lovable and sweet, but in Italy, it's very rare to find red hair. Like, it never really happens in Italy. But what they did get kind of correct, which I think was interesting, because it's not something people would really know unless you're from Italy or from a small town, is that all the small towns did have their own races. My grandparents grew up in a small town called Picentro in the Abruzzi region. My grandfather would partake in a race that happened every September. Young teenagers would run barefoot all the way up the mountain to the top to located the Edelweiss called Stella Alpina and run all the way back down. Their feet would be ripped apart and they'd be exhausted. They didn't get any water or anything. But if they came back with that flower in their hand, they were considered the hero of the town. And usually most of the races have to do with being on saint days. So like Santa Maria or Santa Michael or something. So one of the saints, they would have these events for them. Speaking of saints though, I did find it very amusing that they would use different cheeses for like exclamations. Mostly Giulia, as she kept saying Santa Mozzarella and Santa Ricotta and Santa Gorgonzola. So I did think that was really funny and a really cute thing to just like throw in there.
Santo pecorino, Santa Gorgonzola, Santa Ricotta, Santa Mozzarella.
Because those weren't actually Italian exclamations. She was just saying saint cheeses. But those are all the things I really saw on how Italian or not this movie was. So based on visuals, yes, I'd say it's pretty Italian. And, you know, they got the whole race thing correct. But I think with the accent and, you know, how they portrayed the people and the language, a bit more stereotypical than actually being truly Italian. But lastly, we got to part 3 of this video, which is character development. So as I said earlier, Luca started off as kind of a farm boy who knows nothing of the outside world but wants to explore it. He's cautious, timid, and afraid to do anything considered wrong. We also see that Luca is smart and learns quickly and can easily put 2 and 2 together. He fixes the record player with ease, and that's something Alberto couldn't do even though he's been on land longer than Luca. We see it again when Luca looks around Alberto's room and immediately says they have all the parts to make a Vespa, or at least a very crude model of it. Then he goes on to help Alberto build one in one day. So the hints that Luca wants something more out of the world, like eventually going to school with Giulia, is believable because we already see that he has what it takes. He even improves their Vespa by adding a better handle to steer, proving his ingenuity. In this whole scene, his curiosity even overwhelms his worry of his family finding out where he is. And his character development ends with Luca being more confident in himself and open to trying new things and off to learn about the world instead of simply going to explore it. As for Alberto, he starts off as being perceived as the cool kid. He does fine on his own, knows everything, doesn't need help, likes to have fun, doesn't think of consequences. He thinks he knows what the human world is like. I also think Alberto likes being perceived this way because A, it might deter people from leaving him like his dad did, and B, in case they do leave him, he can pretend not to feel as hurt about it as he probably actually is, because that's his personality, carefree. He doesn't care. And it ends with Alberto overcoming his insecurity, and he's found a family with Luca as a brother figure, and Julia's dad as a father figure. And then for Luca and Alberto's character development together, they quickly take up, as I said, a brotherly kind of relationship, with Alberto being the older brother and Luca being the younger brother. We see Alberto like to tell Luca all his knowledge and basically have Luca look up to him. And I think that also had to do with the fact that he wants Luca to like him a lot because he doesn't really have anyone else since his dad left him. And then of course that ends with the development that their bond is stronger when they had that fight. Nothing could break them apart, as I said earlier in the video, and that he learned to let Luca go instead of clinging on to him. And as for Julia's character development, like I said, she was kind of stable throughout the whole movie, at least I perceived her to be, but I did notice she started off as a loud girl who we immediately like because she stands up for others. She's determined, kind, and lovable and likable, and we always, as the audience, love the underdogs. And basically her goal is she wants to win the race to prove to everyone that she can do it after many failed attempts. But in the end, she gives up the race to save her friends. So I also think that's pretty good character development for her. And we have the grandma, who's a stereotypical grandma, kind of stays the same throughout. Lorenzo and Daniela, parents of Luca, started off being super afraid of the townspeople and kind of overbearing on Luca. And they also learned to let him go and be more accepting. So the mer people as a whole, I said they're afraid of the land monsters. So they went from being frightened to accepting them. And then the townspeople were afraid of the sea monsters, and then they went to accepting them. Although I will say the acceptance happened pretty quickly, like a lot more quickly than is realistic in the real world situation. Although both of their fear comes from a lack of understanding the other and fear of the unknown, as both the land monsters and the sea monsters don't know a lot about the other's culture. They are both seen as dehumanized entities, and that's where the fear actually comes from. And at the end of the movie, I think Giulia's father states it perfectly.
They are Luca and Alberto.
That basically the humans just saw them as monsters, but that's not true. Giulia's dad says that they are simply Luca and Alberto, which I take to mean as they are simply who they are, and that they should be judged on their character and not by how they are perceived to be monsters or otherwise. That is my overall movie review / analysis / discussion of the movie Luca. Overall, I'd say I give it a 7 out of 10. I always say that if a Pixar movie makes me cry, it's automatically above a 5 out of 10. And a Pixar movie doesn't have to make me cry to be good, but I think it just gives extra brownie points to them. I wouldn't say it's the best Pixar movie I've seen, but I liked it. I like that, for the most part, Pixar movies have a lot of messages in them, and it's fun for me to sort of like dive deep into the movies and find out what the message is. So like I said, I think this movie's message is about, acceptance, being able to let go, and as well as, understanding and looking a little bit deeper into people than just what you can perceive from the outside. Well guys, what did you think about the movie Luca if you saw it? If you are from Italy or have a closer Italian heritage than I do, and you found something I missed or maybe disagreed with my points, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. Also, let me know what you thought about Luca as a movie as a whole. I'd like to know that too. Be sure to subscribe to the channels for more analysis and reviews on movies and TV shows, and be sure to check out the channel. But for now, the movie Luca has been reeled in. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.